Hello, fellow nerds. It has been quite a while, but I am not going to start this video with another apology. Instead, I will thank you for your patience and the kind comments I received under some videos asking whether I'm doing okay or not. This is really highly appreciated. Thank you for thinking of me. So, I have good news. I am starting a new campaign. I'm going to DM a new campaign. And as you can see, it's going to be set in Wildemount, the Critical Role Campaign 2 setting, for those of you who watch Critical Role. If not, that's totally fine. My group consists of 3 people from my very first Curse of Strahd campaign that I DM'd, and the other half, also 3 people, are from the Curse of Strahd campaign in which I'm a player, and the DM of that campaign is going to join us, which honestly puts a bit of pressure on me because I don't want to make a fool of myself in front of her. But then she was in the same position because I started DMing Curse of Strahd before she did, and we get along very well, so it's going to be fine. The main problem or obstacle, it's not really a problem, I will be facing is that half of the group are D&D veterans. They play in multiple campaigns, have DM'd themselves, have played different races, different classes, and really know the rules of D&D, and the others don't, or do know to a much lesser extent. So one of my main worries is going to be how to bring this group together. I think personality-wise it's going to work out fine, and the veterans are really helpful towards the newbies. So I have chosen, or rather the group has chosen, I chose the setting because I really wanted to use Wildemount, but the group decided on the starting campaign. As you can see here in Chapter 5, Adventures in Wildemount, there are 4 starting adventures that introduce the 4 regions of the setting. And the group decided they would like to play Tide of Retribution. My internet is very slow today. I actually do have the campaign guide as a hardcover book, but it's way too dark to film a flip through, and I wanted to finally get this video done, so we have to do with a digital version. So the group decided they would like to play Tide of Retribution, which is set at the Menagerie Coast, and somehow this has already turned into a pirate campaign, even though pirates don't really feature in the adventure. If I remember correctly, I've just skimmed through. Yes, it's going to be a pirate campaign. It's going to be sexy. The Discord server is wild, and I'm really looking forward to it. And as I have mentioned previously, I would like to do a prepping video, and this is my first attempt at doing so. So in order to prepare our very first session, we are going to just read the adventure from start to finish. I have read it once, rather quickly, and this is going to be an in-depth reading. We already had our session 0, where they wrote their stats and discussed character ideas and such. But everyone's working at their own pace, and the first actual session is still like a month away because we all have jobs and lives. So the first date we could agree on is like 5 weeks in the future, which is on the one hand a lot of time for me to prepare, but I'm a deadline person, so this is very uncharacteristic of me to start preparing this now. Let's see how this goes. So, tide of retribution. Trouble darkens the shores of the Vestali Peninsula when an earthquake hits, sending part of the village of Palma Flora down into the sea. Tide of Retribution is an adventure that takes characters from 1st to 3rd level. So here's our first hint: they are starting at 1st level, which is excellent, especially for the inexperienced players. It introduces them to the Menagerie Coast, a tropical region filled with monstrous abominations, mysterious curses, and ancient temples. The setting is ideal for nautical and jungle exploring adventures. And I think the moment they read nautical, they thought of pirates, which I love because, interesting fact, as some of you might know, I work at the university. I'm a postdoc in history, and my current project actually features pirates. So this is a weird overlap of work and free time activities. If your players use the Heroic Chronicle to create their characters, talk to them about creating characters who grew up on the Menagerie Coast to give them a closer connection to this region. For characters not from the Menagerie Coast, the players should think about why those characters were drawn from across the continent to an idyllic village by the sea. Now, none of my players has indicated they want to use that chronicle, and they are currently discussing in our Discord server whether their characters know each other, and if so, how they met and what history they share. Story overview. The village of Palma Flora is known for its vibrant green foliage, its competitive shark hunting tournaments, and the sweet cocktail that shares the village's name. Lurking in the Shark Feather Abyss, an ocean trench just west of the village, is a small clan of some dozen Sahuagin, that's difficult, that has grown wary of the shark hunters of Palma Flora. Year after year, the sea devils have attacked the shark hunters in an effort to spoil the tournaments, but their small numbers have seen them consistently defeated by the hunters and the village's hired mercenaries. However, things have recently changed. When a young Sahuagin named Selachai lost her parents in a raid against the shark hunters during last year's tournament, her distraught prayers for vengeance touched the fathomless consciousness of Ukatoa, an ancient leviathan trapped beneath the ocean. Selachai besieged her new patron for the power to destroy the shark hunters and all who exploit the sea. She received that power in the form of a magic scepter tipped with a crystalline amber eye. Transformed by the scepter into a conduit for Ukatoa's might, Selachai now leads the Shark Feather clan on a path of dark retribution, and it's up to the adventurers to stop it. So we are facing a warlock. One of my players is going to be a warlock, I think, if I remember correctly. He changes his mind all the time, or rather he has like 6 characters prepped and can't decide which to use. Well, I'll see. Adventure summary. In the first part of the adventure, the characters are enjoying a day of relaxation or invigorating shark hunting on the sunny shores of Palmaflora, when a ground-quaking tremor rocks the coast. Before their eyes, the island-based portion of the village begins to sink into the depth. Sahuagin prowl the waters, eviscerating those who try to swim to safety. The characters must fight to survive and have a chance to save as many villages as they can before Palmaflora is overrun. In the end, the characters must leap aboard a ship fleeing the sinking village before they are overwhelmed. If they survive the attack and make it to the open water, they reach 2nd level. While aboard the ship, the characters interact with the crew and their mysterious tabaxi captain as they plan their next moves. Okay. If they survive, that's not reassuring. Of course they are going to survive. I'm not going to kill my players before 3rd level. Unless they do something really stupid. But we're going to play remotely, which makes fudging my rolls much easier, and I tend to fudge my rolls to prevent character death. Yeah, I'm that soft of a DM apparently. Unless one of my players indicates they want to use a new character, then I'm all for it. So, the adventure starts with a beach episode. Nice. Moving on. In the last part of the adventure, characters who want to save Palmaflora and unravel the mystery of the sinking village are faced with several options. Captain Three Earrings is keen for them to undertake the quest, and many of the nearby islanders offer resources for underwater adventuring that might help them. I assume Three Earrings is the Tabaxi Captain, neutral evil, okay. $15 points in strength, 16 in dexterity, 14 in constitution, 14 in intelligence, 11 in wisdom, again 14 in charisma, challenge rating of 2, armor class of 15, wearing studded leather, 65 hit points, speed of 30 feet, saving throws +4 on strength, +5 on dexterity, +2 on wisdom, skills +4 on athletics and +4 on deception, 60 feet dark vision and a passive perception of 10, Oh, languages. Common and Sahuagin. Interesting. Do we know the gender of 3 earrings? No. Okay. I do like the idea of female pirates. I just gave a lecture on Mary Read and Anne Bonny. Yeah. This is so confusing to work on pirates in my day job and play a campaign with pirates in my nerd life. Oh boy. Returning to the watery ruins of Palma Flora, the characters face off against the Sahuagin foes. The battle is vicious, as many of Palma Flora's shark hunters have been twisted by eldritch power into half-humanoid, half-shark abominations. No matter the outcome of the final battle, the adventurers are set up to continue their nautical adventures along the Menagerie coast. Okay. So, I'm thinking Sharknado. This is going to be so comical. Set up and starting points. Before beginning the adventure, work with your players as they talk about why their characters are in Palma Flora. You can provide players with some detail regarding the village as it's described in Chapter 3. This can help the players get into character and help you establish why the party has come to this remote coastal village. Well, for the beach episode, of course. Drinking, lying on the beach, reading, and some shenanigans, I assume. This is also a good time to figure out if the characters already know each other or if this adventure is the first time they've met. Now, I do know that 2 of my players are going to be playing siblings with a dark past. My 2 edgelord players. That sinking feeling. Once the players are ready to begin, read or paraphrase the following to set the scene. A cool breeze drifts across Flora Isle, mingling the sweet scent of flowers with the salty tang of the Lucidian Ocean. Well-tanned locals play on the beach, while sunburned visitors sit in wicker chairs and sip cold drinks. A half-dozen nearly naked shark hunters preparing to compete in the annual tournament stand in the shallows on the south shore, armed with harpoons and their wits. The players now have the chance to describe what their characters are doing in the scene you've established. Your group can play out these scenes as short vignettes, with each player establishing what a normal day is like for the characters before the action begins. Once the scene is set, proceed to the next section. If you or your players don't feel comfortable role-playing a short 2-person scene to set the mood, let the players quickly summarize what their characters are doing, then get straight into the action. All the sections in this part of the adventure are keyed to map 5.1, which appears later in this chapter. Now let's have a look at this cool artwork. I like it. A cutlass, very nice. And very appropriate for nautical setting. One of my pet peeves is seeing rapiers on ships. I know rapiers look cool, they are my favorite weapon when fencing. I own several rapiers. They are the coolest kind of sword. but they are huge. Not like a two-handed weapon, but the blade itself is 1 meter 20 long. I have no idea how long in feet that is, in foot that is. I'm European, so 120 centimeters. That's quite long. And on board a ship full of people, half of them your comrades, you don't want to wield a weapon like that. Also, rapiers are the stabby kind of sword. You poke your enemy to death, you don't cut them. A cutlass, however, is shorter and much sturdier, and as you can see, slightly curved towards the tip, which means it's a slashing weapon rather than a stabby weapon. Of course, you can still stab someone with it, but it's supposed to be slashing. Oh, I feel much better now that I have this off my chest. Thank you for listening to my very first rant on accurate weaponry aboard ships. It's going to happen again, I promise. Once the characters have introduced themselves, read. The ground beneath your feet trembles and cracks. Waves 12 feet high crash into the shore, and the sound of screaming fills the air as a stampede of beachgoers flees the sands. A chorus of shrieks add to the cacophony as shark hunters run from the water, pursued by humanoid creatures with fish-like heads and slick, rubbery skin. Ask each player how their character reacts. If any of the characters want to fight the Sahuagin, tell the players to roll initiative. The action of this adventure begins in the south part of the village. Area P1 described below. The characters might not be interested in saving the shark hunters, perhaps feeling that people not afraid to hunt sharks can fend for themselves. That makes sense. In that case, let them ask you questions about what else is happening in the village. The players might decide that their characters want to focus on saving villagers, raiding houses, or performing any other noble or selfish deeds as the village falls into chaos. In this event, refer to the map of Palma Flora and the following general features to answer their questions. South Shore. 4 Sahuagin emerge from the water to pursue 2 shark hunters. Use the tribal warrior stat block. If the characters don't interfere, the shark hunters are handily skewered and killed by the Sahuagin. Shark hunters. The 2 shark hunters are reckless human teenagers, a female half-elf named Elanza and a male tiefling named Joao. Elanza fears that the entire village will sink into the sea, and she urges the characters to accompany her to the ships on the eastern shore and escape. Joao is obsessed with glory. If he survives the encounter, he heads for the north shore to keep fighting unless a character can convince him to flee to safety with a successful DC 10 Charisma Persuasion check. Okay, so Elanza seems to be Spanish, while Joao is definitely Portuguese. Developments. After this encounter, an aftershock rocks the village. Any character who succeeds on a DC 10 Wisdom Perception check confirms that Palma Flora is sinking. Every 10 minutes from this point forward, the size of the island shrinks by 5 feet on all sides as it is slowly submerged in the ocean. Where to next? From here, the characters can travel to the east, west, or north side of Palma Flora. Any character who looks towards the other parts of the village in an attempt to understand what's happening must make a DC 10 Wisdom perception check. On a failure, the character sees only fleeing people and hears only screams. On a success, tell that character the following information based on where they are looking. East Shore. The village docks are here and several ships are already sailing away. One group of sailors is battling Sahwagin as they try to board the last vessel still docked. West Shore. The village is sinking most quickly here and several beachside houses are already half submerged. The villagers and the Sahwagin are all headed toward the North Shore. North Shore. Desperate villagers are trying to swim to the north part of the village on the mainland. A 50-foot wide channel separates the two parts of the village after the earthquake splintered the bridge. If the characters don't intervene, the villagers become easy pickings for the Sahwagin and sharks. Okay. West Shore. If the characters travel to the west shore of the island, read: a half-dozen cottages spread across this part of Flora Isle, and the waves are already lapping at their foundations. Doors hang open and windows are smashed. One Sahwagin raider leaps out of a smashed window, clutching a shark tooth necklace in its slimy hand. The Sahwagin broke off from its raiding party to do a bit of looting. Understandable. Very gamer-like. It attacks any characters it sees. Looting. All the houses stand empty along the stretch of seashore. A character can try to scavenge valuables by spending 10 minutes searching a house and making a DC 13 intelligence investigation check. On a success, the character finds an art object worth 25 gold pieces. You can roll on the 25 GP art objects table in Chapter 7 of the Dungeons Master's Guide to determine what kind of valuable this is, or if you can make one up, which I'm going to do because I hate flipping through all my open tabs. For every 10 minutes the characters spend looting houses, the island sinks and the water on all sides advances 5 feet inward. Treasure. In addition to anything claimed by looting characters, the necklace carried by the Sahwagin is covered in shark teeth and bedded with tiny shells and is worth 25 gold pieces. North Shore. If the characters travel to the north shore of the island, read: the 50-foot wide channel that separates Flora Isle from the rest of Palma Flora is impassable after the earthquake splintered the bridge. By the look of it, the northern part of the village is suffering the same aftershocks as the island, and people are fleeing in droves. A dozen villagers stand on the north side of the channel, all of them calling encouragement to the 6 villagers currently swimming across. But their calls turn to screams as 3 fast-moving sharks tear through the channel. 3 reef sharks, all telepathically commanded by a Sahwagin lurking underwater, attack the 6 commoners swimming through the channel. One commoner is 35 feet across the channel and can reach the other side on their next turn. The other 5 villagers are only 25 feet across and are unsure whether to turn back or keep swimming. To be prepared if the characters decide to go into the water to save the swimmers, be sure to familiarize yourself with the rules for underwater combat in Chapter 9 of the Player's Handbook. Oh dear, I have no idea what underwater combat is about. Let me make a note of that. Sahuagin on duty. The reef sharks aren't aggressive unless threatened, but the Sahuagin radar is commanding them to attack. If the Sahuagin is killed, the sharks swim away and leave the villagers alone. This Sahuagin is lurking underwater in the middle of the channel. A creature that is underwater and succeeds on a DC 10 Wisdom Perception check sees the Sahuagin. The creatures above the frothy, blood-clouded water, the Sahuagin is heavily obscured, saving the villagers. Any villagers who are saved promise the characters that they remember their bravery. If the characters ever visit another settlement in the Menagerie Coast, such as Port Damali or Nicodranas, in future adventures, one of these NPCs might have settled there and can become a local resource for the characters. Oh, that's nice. Treasure. One of the villagers aided by the characters shows their gratitude with a gift of a family heirloom golden bracelet worth 25 gold pieces. East Shore. If the adventurers travel to the East Shore, read. One ship remains moored to the waterlogged docks. Its crew members are battling Sahuagin as well as giant crabs with orange shells and vicious pincers as they attempt to board the vessel. A young villager wearing a blood-stained white robe stands back from the fight and screams an incantation, calling a burst of golden flame down on one of the Sahuagin. As you arrive, he turns to you, clearly frightened. Are you any of the wounded? Those sailors need help, but I can't get close enough to heal them. But if I heal you, will you please help them? The white-robed figure is Aurelio, a teenage acolyte with a light brown skin and a dyed orange, shoulder-length hair. He is willing to cast Cure Wounds or Bless on the characters, but only if they help the sailors fighting off Sahuagin at the docks. If the characters saved any villages elsewhere, those villages stand at the edge of the fray with Aurelio. Combat. 4 sailors use the bandit stat block are fighting against 2 Sahuagin and 4 trained giant crabs in the shallow water in front of the docks. Once the characters arrive, 2 of the sailors shout their thanks and run up to the gangplank to prepare the ship for immediate departure. The other 2 remain to help fight. Well, if the ship is docked there, the water can't be shallow. Unless we're talking about boats. Okay. Suspend your disbelief. Departure. With the 2 sailors on board, the ship is ready to depart in 1d6 rounds. Even if the characters aren't able to defeat the enemies here, they can flee to the deck of the ship and try to defend against the attackers until it's ready to leave. If the Sahuagin and the crabs are defeated, the sailors are willing to wait for up to 1 hour if the characters have unfinished business in Palma Flora. So it's a ship and not a boat, and the water can't be shallow. God damn it. Ship. There we have it. The ship is a 2-masted caravel with the name Wave Chaser emblazoned on its hull. It can hold up to 20 people, including its crew of 6. And here we have the map. Okay, what's this? Market stall. Down here. Chairs and tables. Oh, this is cute. I like it. I like the art style. Other Flora Isle locations. The following areas labeled P5 through P10 on map 5.1 are specific locations on Flora Isle. When the characters return to the ruins of Palma Flora in the last part of the adventure, all these areas are in ruins or have been swept away by the waves. The bridge. The bridge once connected Flora Isle to the rest of Palma Flora on the mainland. It is destroyed when the earthquake rocks the island. The cliffs. Unlike the gentle sloping beaches along the rest of the island, the north end of Flora Isle is a sheer cliff 10 feet high. Farmer's cottage. A farmer raises pigs and chickens in the pen adjacent to his house. Then we have the docks. 3 ships are docked on the east side of the island. One is a caravel named Wave Chaser. The others are skiffs named Tradewind and Blushing Elf respectively. Both skiffs flee the docks immediately after the earthquake. The tavern. The 3-story Riptide Inn and Tavern is the tallest building on Flora Isle. Most visitors to the island stay here. The tavern's ground floor is open to the air and looks out at the waves. The public square. In the center of Flora Isle stands a wishing pool looked over by a statue of Cord the Stormlord, patron deity of Palma Flora's shark hunters. Most travelers throw a silver piece in for good luck. The pool presently contains 36 silver pieces, but stealing these offerings is frowned on by the villagers. Several market stalls selling fresh fruit stand just north of the square. This feels like a good stopping point. I already need to take a lot of notes on stuff I just read, and I can't multitask like that. So maybe let's stop here and let me know in the comments whether this is a type of video you enjoy, and then I'll take you along on my Wildemount prepping journey. Until then, I hope you have a lovely day if your day is just starting out, or maybe if you're using this to fall asleep, which is totally fine. I wish you very pleasant dreams, and I'm looking forward to the next time. Until then, bye bye fellow nerds.